Okay, good evening. In order to minimize distractions during the meeting, all personal communication devices should be turned off or put in non-audible mode, please. I now call on the Mobile Home Rent Review Commission to order at 6:07 p.m., June 11th, 2025. And we'll take roll call. Commissioner Butler. Here. Commissioner Harrison.
Here.
Commissioner Hassel.
Here.
We have a quorum. Members of the public who wish to address the commission on an item listed on the agenda must complete a speaker card and bring it to us. Because this is a special meeting, public comments on a matter not listed on the agenda will not be heard. When addressing the commission, each person should state their full name for the record. A 3-minute limitation will apply to each speaker unless interpreter services are used. If such services are used, speakers will be given 6 minutes. Please raise your hand at this time to indicate you will need interpreting assistance. In addition, we have interpreting listening devices available, which were given out. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, I will have the city attorney speak on item 3.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. As this is the first meeting of the commission, we will start with a basic overview of the role of the commission and the hearing procedures. The commission is an impartial, quasi-judicial body, meaning something like a panel of 3 judges. The commission is responsible for reviewing and making decisions on mobile home rent increase adjustments like the one this evening. The commission must ensure all parties have the opportunity to present relevant material and are treated with respect and impartiality. The commission must consider evidence and the testimony submitted by both the park owner and park residents without bias for or against either side. They may deliberate in public or in closed session when legally permitted. All deliberation must occur in public unless there is a closed session. They may vote on certain applications like the one this evening and also issue final decisions. When holding the meeting, the commission must follow the adopted rules, procedures, and applicable law such as the Brown Act. I will pause here to say that the commission does have adopted rules and procedures. However, even those rules and procedures advise that they are guidelines only, and there's flexibility in applying those. They are guidelines, and we will refer to them as appropriate. There's also a special role for the appointed chairperson. That chairperson is like the referee of the commission. He or she presides over the meetings, ensures orderly conduct, and rules on procedural matters. The commission will appoint a chairperson and vice chairperson later this evening. In terms of procedure, the commission will be using the 2 sets of rules and procedures I mentioned earlier. These rules were adopted in 1989 and 1998, respectively. Copies were provided to both parties' representatives on May 22nd. The commission may ask the city's legal counsel, city attorney here, Monica Castillo, or my special counsel here to the city, Annalisa Mates. So you may ask questions about procedures this evening. You may ask about how to apply them, and also any Brown Act questions. Before the hearing on the application, the commission will consider residents' requests for a continuance of tonight's hearing. The resident's representative will have 5 minutes to present the request and then 3 minutes for rebuttal. The applicant park owner will be given 5 minutes to respond to the request. The hearing on the application for rent increase itself will be conducted in general as follows. The chair will introduce the matter before the commission. being the application for rent increase. Special Counsel Attorney Mates will present the staff report. After that, the commission may ask special counsel questions. And then the chair will open the public hearing. The applicant's representative, the park owner, will have 30 minutes to present his argument for a rent increase and present supporting evidence. The resident's representative will also have 30 minutes to present its opposition to the applicant's argument. The park owner will have 10 minutes then to rebut the resident's argument. After that, public comment will be taken. The commission then will discuss how to proceed, which we will then turn to my colleague, Attorney Mates, for how to proceed next. And at this time, I will turn it back to our commission clerk for item 4A, appointment of chairperson and vice chairperson.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Castillo. I did want to let you know, we do have one public comment card for the item number 3 of summary of commission's roles and hearing procedures, as this is listed on the agenda, if that person could speak for 3 minutes.
That's fine. They can come speak for 3 minutes.
Okay, we have Carl Lawson.
May I speak from here?
Yes.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, we don't know who that is yet. Honorable Chair and members of the Commission, my name is Carl Lawson. I have worked in the field for 30 years in the area of mobile home rent stabilization throughout California and have participated in dozens of hearings for rent increase applications based on maintenance of net operating income, such as the hearing you will be conducting shortly. I wish to commend the city attorney for her presentation, her report, which is distilled at pages 12 and 13 of your agenda packet. She has highlighted the fact that you are a quasi-judicial body, almost like court judges. It's a heavy responsibility. And this is not a policy-making proceeding, and you are not mediators or negotiators. You are judges who will hear evidence as she has laid out. The city of Santa Paula enacted Chapter 152 to balance the competing economic interests of the two sets of property owners. And the job of this commission, as the city attorney stated, is to receive evidence and testimony and make your ruling based on that. Now, there are many people in the room tonight, but your ruling has to be based not on their feelings or how many they are, but on the evidence that's presented and introduced in the record, and we trust you will do that. We commend you for taking this responsibility on for the citizens of the city of Santa Paula. That's who you are serving. I have one recommendation with respect to the rules of procedure. We ask that you look to your rules of procedure when making your decisions. Those are found at pages 72 through 80 of your agenda packet, and with particular attention to page 75. Although the city attorney has indicated there is some flexibility in the rules, rules and words have to mean something. And I have seen in many hearings in other jurisdictions where commissions may feel compelled to not enforce their rules to the detriment of one party or another, and that inevitably results in them being accused of bias in favor of one party or the other. So I would urge you to look at the seriousness of those rules and work within their guidelines, work within their framework. Once again, I commend the city attorney for her report and her presentation, and we thank you for your service you're providing to the citizens of Santa Paula. Thank you.
And the commission may feel free to ask clarifying questions again throughout tonight's meeting. Now we will turn to the next item for the appointment of our chairperson and vice chairperson.
Verify number 7 is where that's starting.
No. So we're on 4A.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. I will go ahead and begin this. The chairperson is elected by majority vote of the commission using the following process. Once the office of the chairperson is declared vacant and nominations are open, any member may nominate another member for chairperson. A second on the nomination is not required. Any member of the commission may move to close the nominations at any time after all commissioners have had the opportunity to make a nomination. The motion requires a second if there is more than one nomination and must receive a vote, a majority of the commission to pass. After nominations have been closed, the commission can debate the nominations. Nominees will be voted on in the order of the nominations were made. The first commissioner receiving a majority vote will be the chairperson. So let's begin. The office of the chairperson is now vacant, and the nominations are now open. May I have a nomination for chair?
I would nominate Commissioner Harrison for chair. She is the one who has the experience here, has been on this commission much longer.
Okay. And are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, any commissioner may move to close the nominations for chairperson. Okay.
We need a second.
And a second?
Yes.
All who vote to close, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so as we've done this, is there any debate on the nominations? Seeing no nomination, I'll take a roll call on Karen Harrison for the office of chairperson. We have Commissioner Butler. Is it yes or no? Is your speaker on, too? Be sure.
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Harrison?
Present?
Yes. And is that a yes for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Hassel?
Yes.
And that's a yes. By a unanimous vote, the commission appoints Karen Harrison as the chairperson.
You may switch seats. Yes. No, you'll be in the center.
And if the commission would like to move their seats around for the seating?
Commissioners, when you're ready, switch your name cards.
And Chair Harrison, if you would like me to go ahead and begin the appointment for the vice chair? Yes? Okay. The office of the vice chairperson is now vacant, and nominations are now open. May I have a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Commissioner Butler.
And are there any other nominations? Okay. Seeing no other nominations, I can take a call for closing the nominations. And if you can say yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Do I need to second that?
No, you don't need a second it. Just a nomination for closing. Yes? And yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any debate on the nominations or discussion? None? I will go ahead and take a roll call now to nominate Eric Butler for the office of Vice Chair. So I'll call Commissioner Butler.
Here and yes.
Okay. Chair Harrison
Here and yes.
and Commissioner Hassel.
Yes.
By a unanimous vote, the commission appoints Eric Butler as Vice Chair. Thank you. And Chair, and then this will be your part to take over. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe you're on page 6 of your materials. Yes, ma'am.
We are now moving on to item 4B on the agenda, application for rent increase for 400 Mobile Estates at 400 Craig Drive, and Park residents' request for continuance. The commission will hear from special counsel mates.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm attorney Annalisa Mates, and I will be giving you a brief overview of what is going to procedurally unfold this evening and in the staff report. We're here because the owner of 400 Mobile Estates Park has submitted a formal request to raise rents beyond the standard annual increase allowed by the city. This process is called a net operating income adjustment, and it's meant to ensure the park owners are able to earn what's legally called a just and reasonable return on their investment, while still protecting residents from excessive rent hikes. First, what is the Rent Review Commission and why are we here? The Rent Review Commission is a 3-member panel appointed by the City of Santa Paula to review and decide on rent increase applications submitted by mobile park owners. Their job is to ensure fairness, not here to take sides, but rather look at the facts, weigh the evidence, and make a decision based on the rules set out in the Santa Paula Municipal Code, the Rent Review Commission adopted procedures and rules. What kind of rent increases are usually allowed? Here in the city of Santa Paula, every year, mobile home park owners can raise rents by a set amount tied to inflation, but only up to a certain percentage of 7% a year. To do this, they do not need to involve the city, they do not need to apply, and there's no involvement of the commission. They can do this independently. But if a park owner believes that the standard increase isn't enough to cover their rising costs to earn a fair return or maintain net operating income, they can submit a special application like the one before us tonight, where they ask for a larger rent increase. When that happens, the city reviews the application, then schedules a public hearing like the one we're holding tonight. What is this the specific application about? Here, in this case, the park owner is asking to raise rents by $205.29 per space per month that they identify as an increase of 44.64%, with the intent to begin on June 1st, 2025. They allege this increase is necessary to keep up with their operating costs and maintain their net operating income compared to what it was in their base year, adjusted for inflation. As part of their application, they've submitted supporting documentation and hired an outside expert level advisors who is a certified public accountant, a CPA, to analyze the numbers and support their claim. What have the residents said? The residents of the park, through their new resident association and legal counsel, have formally opposed this request. They have submitted documents, raised concerns, and asked the commission to delay tonight's hearing so that they can review additional documents they've requested from the city under Public Records Act. The commission must now decide whether that request for the delay, the continuance, is justified and necessary to make a fair decision. If it is, the commission may vote to reschedule the hearing. If not, the hearing will proceed tonight as scheduled. Park residents requested the continue tonight's hearing for two reasons. One, they feel that it is necessary to receive all of their requested documents from the city before proceeding forward. And two, to provide residents and their expert enough time to properly review and evaluate all said documentation. Under the Commission's Rules of Procedure and Santa Paula Municipal Code, the Commission has the authority to grant or deny a continuance. It is within the Commission's discretion to decide whether delaying the hearing is necessary in order to fully consider the application and to ensure that all parties have a fair opportunity to present their case. The Commission should evaluate whether the request is supported by specific reasons or evidence, whether a continuance is necessary for the Commission to carry out its duties, and whether postponing the hearing tonight would cause undue delay or prejudice to any party involved. It's important to emphasize that not every request for more time requires a continuance. If the basis for the request is not essential to the Commission's ability to evaluate the application, such as the Commission already has adequate evidence to proceed, then the Commission may lawfully deny the request and move forward with the hearing as scheduled. Ultimately, the Commission may choose one of the following options as it relates to the continuance request. One, grant the continuance and reschedule a hearing to a later date if they found that the request is necessary. Two, deny the continuance and proceed with tonight's hearing. Three, allow limited public comment for further understanding and justification for you guys to make that decision. If the continuance is denied and we go forward with the hearing tonight, I will explain that process as well briefly. First, the city staff and consultants will give a brief presentation, which will be done by Thompson & Thompson, the report that was included in the packet tonight. Then, park owner and the representatives will have 30 minutes to present. The residents will then have 30 minutes to present, and then back to park owner for a final 10-minute rebuttal opportunity. We'll take public comment after that, and then the commission can deliberate and review and ask any questions of any party or any involved party here. What the commission can do afterwards has three options again. One, continue the hearing at the end for more time because you need more information. Two, close the hearing and vote tonight. And three, close the hearing but delay to vote for a future meeting. If you choose the third option, just be reminded that you cannot accept any further evidence into the record. Whatever decision is made, it must be based on evidence submitted by both parties. The park owner must prove that the higher rent is justified by law, and if they do not meet that burden, the commission is required to deny said request. The final note on public participation: this process is designed to be transparent and fair. Everyone has had a chance to submit documents, and everyone here tonight is welcome to provide public comment and participate. We ask for respectful engagement as we work through the complex but very important issue that affects the lives and homes of many in this community. The Commission's role tonight is to review the entire application, other written evidence submitted, the testimony given by all tonight, then evaluate the quality of each piece of evidence and credibility. Then ultimately ensure that the final decision that you vote on, whatever it may be, is fair, lawful, and supported by substantial evidence. Thank you, Commissioners and public.
Thank you, Ms. Mates. We will move on to the first recommended action. Consider park residents' request to continue the hearing on the 400 Mobile Estates application for rent adjustment. The park resident's representative will have 5 minutes to present his case for the continuance and 3 minutes for rebuttal. The park will have 5 minutes to present his opposition to the continuance. Mr. Gonzalez? Is that?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Commissioner Harrison. I'm sorry.
Madam Clerk, time, wait,
Chairperson Harrison,
yes, 5 minutes. Pardon.
Chairperson Harrison, Vice Chair Butler, and Mr. Hussel. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Feel free to correct me. My name is Oscar Gonzalez, and I serve.
Excuse me, if you could speak into the mic, and you tap it to make sure it's been turned on. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. My name is Oscar Gonzalez. I serve as legal counsel for the 400 Mobile Estates Residents Association. I'm a resident of Santa Paula, relatively short. I've only been here 50 years. And I note that when I first went through the application for the rent increase, I didn't see any verifiable financial documentation. I didn't see anything that had any probative value, weight, credibility, as far as evidence in the application. I assumed it must exist. I can't imagine that somebody would submit an application to not provide the city and its consultants with probative, verifiable financial documentation. And so that was my task, is to find those documents. I started with the city in early April with the Public Records Act request, and I followed up with another document request in May. Those documents had been produced pursuant to both requests, and the document production under one request is yet to be completed. I recently received an email that I can expect more documents tomorrow. The odd thing is that upon reading the consultant's report yesterday, the Thompson & Thompson report, I discovered for the first time that the applicant had never provided, up to that point, any verifiable financial documentation to the city or to the consultant. Okay? And the reason for the continuance, as just stated, was that I needed my expert, Mr. Lawson, to review that documentation in order to oppose this application. I found out yesterday that didn't exist. Therefore, I don't need the continuance. Mr. Lawson can't review documents that don't exist. And so I withdraw my request for a continuance. We're ready to go. Okay? I note that we talked about being transparent and fair. I note that reviewing the Commission's 1988 Rules of Procedure, the applicant was required to submit all such documents to the city by March 3rd, which is 5 days after the application was deemed complete by the city on February 28, 2025. The applicant failed to comply. I further note that the applicant missed another deadline 3 months later when it was required to submit any and all documents that it wished the Commission to consider at least 10 days before this hearing. Again, the applicant failed to comply. I note that on April 18th, I'm sorry, that would be April 28th, I sent a letter to the applicant's counsel where I asked him for the documentation that would provide verifiable financial information. I finally spoke to Mr. Dilday, the applicant's counsel, on May 14th. and I asked him whether there would be a production of documents forthcoming pursuant to my request of April 28th. Mr. Dilday stated that he didn't see the point. Mr. Dilday based his response on the following. The City of Santa Paula's ordinance does not require the production of documents. It is too late for a production of documents, and that the requests are onerous for the park owners. I have the letter here confirming my recollection of the conversation with Mr. Dilday, and I can give you copies of the letter. I do think that you were advised that the rules are of consequence. And so I do think,
Sorry for the interruption. I have my 5-minute timer that has gone off for this.
I'll leave it at that. You can comply with the rules of the procedures that's set forth in the documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Dilday, did I spell that right? Or say that right?
Yes, you did.
You may begin. You may begin when you are ready.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't need to rebut it since he just withdrew it. So, I would like to point out that he's misstating the rules. He said something that after 5 days after it's deemed complete, there's no rule that says anything about that. So we can get into that later. But, yeah, I don't think there's anything to rebut since he already withdrew his motion or whatever for a continuance. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dilday. Mr. Gonzalez, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I refer Mr. Dilday to looking at the 1998 Rules of Procedure. A landowner submitting an application for a rent increase to the city shall serve copies of the same to the tenant representative along with all supporting information, declarations, and data within 5 days after application being declared complete. The application was declared complete on February 28th. There was an obligation to provide documents within 5 days of that finding, and the applicant failed to comply.
There was no tenant representative.
It further states, all written evidence to be presented by the landowner at the hearing shall be served on the tenant's representative at least 10 days prior to the hearing. A proof of service shall be filed with the clerk of the commission. As far as not being served on the representative, they had an obligation to serve it on the city as well.
And I apologize, Mr. Gonzalez, you have 10 minutes for rebuttal, so if you want to continue.
It's
Yes,
actually
longer for rebuttal
three.
than.
It
No,
is
it's
3?
three, yeah.
It is 3, okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. And we will now take public comment. Does the clerk have any speaker cards on request for continuance? As a reminder, speakers are limited to 3 minutes unless interpretation services are used. In that case, speakers may have 6 minutes. Please read the names. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Harrison, since the continuance request has been withdrawn, I would ask that each speaker, when they come up, indicate if they still wish to submit a comment or not.
Okay.
If we can call Elaine Yanpin.
Briefly, just for understanding across the board, everyone here, when the continuance request has been withdrawn, there will be no vote on it, just to be clear. So if you have a comment and you don't wish to present it, because there'll be no vote, just let us know and we can move on, go forward with the hearing tonight.
And I will ask one more time for Elaine Yanpin. I will go ahead and move on to the next person, Eddie Ramirez.
I don't know if they can hear you, if you can be louder.
We're looking for an Eddie Ramirez.
Here we go. That's okay. Thank you.
Hello, hello. It'll be quick, I promise. Good evening. I would like to have you guys think about some of the people that live there, my neighbors, friends. I start work at like 5 o'clock in the morning, so I walk my dog, and a lot of the people I see in the early mornings, they're older than I am. And I know one of these days they want to retire. I would like to retire one day, and 45% is a little high. Okay, sorry. And so just think of some of the older people now, and maybe 5 years from now. Like I said, I would like to eventually retire, and and some of these people here, some of them are on a budget, on a tight budget, and this will, affect them tremendously. And the way things are now, the economy is not the best. My work is pretty slow right now. And, just think of, just everybody, including yourselves too, but everybody here, I've lived there for like 20 plus years. I've become friends with a lot of them, a lot of tight neighbors. And I can see, everybody's nervous and they're thinking about the struggle that might happen. And we all agree a rent hike is normal, or, a normal one, like 7%, like you were talking about. But 45% in one shot, that's pretty tough. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Laura Espinoza.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Laura Espinosa. I'm a former mayor here in Santa Paula and the current president of Santa Paula Latino Town Hall, a 27-year-old organization that encourages civic engagement, like you see tonight, a full house, and access to higher education, affordable housing, and health care. I'm here to comment in opposition to the proposed rent increase in the 400 Mobile Home Park. Thank you for your volunteer
May I interrupt
service.
you, ma'am? Just one moment. I want to be sure that we give you the ample opportunity to address the application, if that's what you're trying to talk
That's what
about.
I'm doing.
And not the continuance. And I want to make sure that the public comment cards are accurately representing what you want to address. And since we haven't had the hearing yet, I think it would be beneficial if you were able to sit and hear all of the hearing and then come back up for public comment, if that was okay with you.
Okay.
If you want to address it here, we're just not going to vote on the continuance tonight, and that's what this is
Yeah.
comment on.
I've been in
I'm
enough
happy
of
to
these
open-
meetings already and know the subject matter, so I'm willing to provide the comment right now
Wonderful.
in opposition to the rent application.
Understood. Just wanted to make it, that was.
Thank you for
clear.
that. Thank you, Commissioners, for your volunteer service as commissioners. And I want to acknowledge the crucial role that you each provide in ensuring that rent increases are fair and reasonable for residents. As you will hear the pleas of local residents and the impacts to their well-being and housing stability for themselves and their families, I'll focus my comments on impacts to the neighbors and the broader community. I have worked on several mandated housing elements in our city and know how critical housing at all income levels is for a balanced community. Vulnerable low-income residents are especially impacted when options are limited in affordable vacancies, historical redlining practices that have reduced opportunities for generational wealth to pass to family members, to allow purchase of moderate and higher income homes. Residents who have traditionally rented space for lack of means to purchase single-family homes in other neighborhoods contribute to the local economy and the local economy's tax base. I'm sorry, I'm getting interrupted.
Jason, if you could turn your speaker on, your mic on silent, please. Jason?
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't. Right. He's full of shit.
Jason Dilday, can you please turn your mic on silent? Mr. Dilday?
Don't worry.
I think you can also mute them without waiting on them.
Yeah, let me bring this down.
Right there,
Thank you. Okay. All right, Jason, we'll have to get you back up there later. He didn't hear us. He probably has it on quiet. Okay.
May I have enough additional time?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So residents who have traditionally rented space for lack of means to purchase single-family homes in other neighborhoods contribute to the local economy's tax base through grocery, gas, and clothing purchases. They pay for local schools, a local college, police and fire services, and all public services provided by local, county, and state government. They pay for these services, some not even realizing, at a much higher ratio of their income than other residents. Remember the unfair burden of the recent new sales tax, for example, the highest in the county of Ventura. I ask for a denial of this unreasonable increase as it impacts the entire city's economic development. Retail businesses choose not to open new businesses here because the income levels in a small population of 30,000 will not sustain them. Schools will not thrive because tax increments will not sustain teacher salaries or school environments conducive to learning. A housing mix will not be developed because new residents will not be interested in moving to an area that cannot sustain residents of all income levels. Please deny the increase and restore peace of mind to these hardworking residents. Remember, your primary obligation is to the local residents of Santa Paula, not outside corporate interests. Thank you.
Excuse me, clarification, I apologize, this is an unwieldy process, and to clarify, for the last speaker, would you like your comments to be part of the public hearing record when that public hearing is held on the rent increase application after we close on the motion for continue?
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. Yes, I would. And additionally, I'd just like it noted that there are not sufficient interpretation devices for many of the people that are here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the next set of speakers, if you are not addressing the continuance tonight, the request for a continuance of tonight's hearing, which I remind you has been withdrawn, you should withhold your comments about the rent increase application until that is addressed later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Castile. I just wanted to read the names in case you're wanting to come up for the continuance. I have one here. It does say 4B. That's Sierra Deonda. I'm going to hold your public comment for later. I have Tiffany Orr, where it does not say, and that will be for later. She has verified that. Amalia Ochoa, I have. Will that be for later? Yes. Yes. And I have Mitch Lilly, and it does indicate 4B. And I still do have Elaine Yanpen, so I will call her again also for 4B. And that is all that I have for this evening. There's no other public comments for that item. Well, I do have one more coming up right now, and that will be for 4B, Ryan Drury. Thank you.
As this has concluded our public comment on the request for a continuance, and noting that that has been withdrawn, we can now proceed to the next item, which is the application for rent increase. Ms. Special Counsel Mace, would you please lead us into that?
We'll now move to the next action item, which is the application in the hearing this evening. Again, like we've stated previously, the park owner and applicant in this matter will have 30 minutes to present their case, and then Residents' Council will also have 30 minutes and an opportunity for rebuttal at the end. As a reminder, Commissioners and Chair, you're able to ask questions and participate throughout the entire presentation. If there's any clarifying questions or uncertainty, feel free to jump in and ask. All right, would you like to come?
So, Madam Chair, you may now open the public hearing. Correct.
We will now move on to the discussion and questions from the commission. Is there any discussion from the commission?
So we'll begin now first with the opening of the public hearing. Mr. Dilday will be given 30 minutes to begin his presentation, and we will have the timer start whenever you're ready, Mr. Dilday.
Thank you very much. Just going back briefly to Mr. Gonzalez's previous comments, I'd like to reiterate that the entire application package was not provided to the tenant representative because there was no tenant representative. And the reason for that is that the tenants did not comply with section 152.05 of the
Objection,
ordinance.
relevance.
Excuse me?
Objection, relevance.
Okay. Didn't comply with section 152.05, which requires them annually to inform the rent administrator by January 31st of each year who the representative is. They didn't do that. We did not know who it was. It's caused some confusion in the beginning, so that's the reason for that. Regarding Mr. Gonzalez's comments about the lack of financial information, the CPA's report had profit and loss statements, which includes income and expenses for both the base year and 2023. It included rent rolls, and other financial information. Everything that was necessary for the commission or the consultant to make the decision, to prepare his report, or for the commission to make their decision. I also like to point out that the city deemed
Objection, this is a narrative. You can ask questions.
Excuse me, there's no objections during the time of the presentation. Each party will be given their allotted time of 30 minutes without interruption. And then there will be a time for the resident's representative to present his evidence and arguments. We can put a few seconds back on the clock for Mr. Dilday.
Thank you. Just a little background, the city deemed the application complete on, I believe, February 28th. And the city, neither the city nor the consultant ever requested any additional information from the park. We would have provided whatever they requested. So that's why nothing else was submitted. In previous fair return applications that we reviewed, that we received from the city through a Public Records Act request, in all previous ones that we received, the expert and or the city requested additional information, which the park provided before the consultant prepared his report. That didn't happen here. Instead, what we have in the agenda packet is a letter from the expert dated 2 days ago that we only received yesterday, saying he needed more information. So I don't understand in all previous proceedings, the city requested additional information from the park, and the park provided it. That did not happen here. As far as we knew, they had everything they needed. So that's some of the lack of information. But because I saw the experts in the experts letter that we received yesterday, I saw that he wanted the GL. I submitted that today to the commission, and that's to permit it under section 4.1. It's permitted to be offered to the commission at the hearing if it's explanatory, not substantive, which this is. The GL just explains things that appear on the profit and loss statement, doesn't add any new arguments, evidence or arguments. It just basically explains what's in there. So it's permitted under Rule 4.1. It's been submitted, was submitted earlier today. So if the commission has any questions about the P&L, the general ledger is there.
Where is that P&L within the packet? I'm not seeing any of that.
It didn't get in the packet because we just received the packet yesterday, and in the packet we had it was the first time we had seen the consultant's letter, which was dated Monday 9th, saying that he would like to see the general ledger. So I did. So in case the commission would like to see the general ledger, I submitted it today.
So I will allow Mr. Dilday to complete his presentation, but the letter was emailed and not yet distributed to the commissioners. Commissioners, you have the discretion to review that now or not, given its late submission. So I will go ahead and, rather than take up more of Mr. Dilday's time, have him continue, and we can take a recess after your presentation, Mr. Dilday, should the commission decide to look at that ledger.
Okay. I thought you said letter, so I was a little confused. Okay, got it. All right.
Ledger.
So I'd like to call Mr. Brian Eade, who's the certified public accountant. Well, hold on one second. I'm sorry. 1 second. I just want to address a couple issues in the staff report. The staff report correctly points out on page 3 that section 4.3 of the rules require, quote, all financial information regarding the income and expenses of the mobile home park, whether submitted by the owner or the tenants, shall be prepared by a certified public accountant. The park did this. I'd also like to point out, though, that nowhere in the rules or in the ordinance does it require, even mention the following. The first one's on the top, page 3, and it says the park must submit substantial evidence, whatever that means, as part of the application. That's in the staff report. Does not appear in the ordinance or the rules, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. The other one is section G on the top on page 5. It says it is the responsibility of the park owner to submit everything the commission may need with their application as supporting documentation. So I don't know what that means either. I don't know what everything they may need. We submitted everything they need, whether they want to have backup information for any of that stuff. That's what the general ledger is for. But the profit and loss is what the M&OI analysis is based on. So, and that is provided in Exhibit 2 to Mr. Eade's report. So I'm going to let him address that right now, but I just want to point those couple of things out from the staff report that I found that were not included in either the rules or the ordinance. So with that, I'd like to. Are you there, Mr. Eade?
I'm here.
Good evening.
Hi.
So, what documents did you review in preparing your analysis?
As I listed in my report, documents I used were the profit and loss statement for calendar year 1984, profit and loss statement for calendar year 2023, a general ledger for 2023, rent rolls by month for calendar year 2023, property tax statements which were obtained from the Ventura County website. I looked at the consumer price index that's called out in the ordinance. I looked at some industry reports and other various financial or various supporting documentation.
And do you, I'd like to just kind of go through your report, key
Sure.
elements. And do you want me to, if you want me to put it, I think I can share my screen if there's anything you want me to put up on the screen. Let me know.
Okay, okay. I do have a copy of my report as well.
Okay. One second. You want me to put it out on the screen? Would that be helpful?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have it right. Let me just do it with the hearing vote. People can see it, but can you see it, Brian?
Yes.
Okay, just tell me where you want me to go.
Sure, so just down towards the bottom there, it says documents and information relied upon, and those are the items that I just read to you. And that's what I used to do my analysis and prepare my report.
Yeah, you want to talk about your calculation?
Sure. So the maintenance of net operating income is a methodology for analyzing whether or not a park is earning a fair return. There are many methodologies. The maintenance of net operating income, or MNOI, is the one that this ordinance prescribes, and it's very widely accepted, at least in the courts. In order to prepare that, or the basis for this maintenance of net operating income is it's basically an analysis to show that the park is earning a return or the same return that it was earning before the rent control ordinance went into effect. So essentially, under market conditions, without any rent control restrictions, let's say the park is earning X, and that was that year before the ordinance was enacted is called the base year, and in this case, that year is 1984. So we look at the profit and loss statement from 1984. We make any adjustments to it because that the ordinance might prescribe, or that the theory of maintenance of net operating income might prescribe, because there are some differences between just standard financial statements and a P&L and that shows net income. There's some differences there between that and what's considered net operating income for the purposes of determining whether or not it's been maintained. And so we make adjustments to 1984. We do the same thing for 2003. I started with the profit and loss statement for 2023, made some adjustments to it, and then you basically compare the two. You take the net operating income from the base year, 1984, you inflate that, or you multiply it by the increase percentage in the CPI index that's called out in the ordinance. And whatever that number is, that's considered a fair return under this ordinance. Okay? Then you compare that to what actually was earned, or what the net operating income actually was in 2023. And if the actual 2023 net operating income is lower than that fair return amount, then it indicates that an increase in rent is warranted because the park's not earning a fair return. If the actual 2023 net operating income is higher than that fair return that we calculated, then it's an indication that the park is already earning a fair return. No increase is warranted, no decrease is warranted either. And so that's basically the theory, and that is the analysis that I performed. Mr. Dilday, you put my Exhibit 1 up on the screen, which is basically a summary of the results of my analysis.
Do you want to just go over this Exhibit 2 first, or?
Sure, we can do that. So Exhibit 2 is basically what I was just describing to you. If you see on the On the left-hand side, if you scroll up just a little bit so we can see the headers. There, 1984 on the left, 2023 on the right. Each year has 4 columns. First column is books and records. So as I was saying before, that is the P&L in 1984. So that's profit and loss in 1984 in the books and records column. 2023, it's also the P&L from 2023 is in the books and records column. That's the starting point. Then we make adjustments in the next column, and I explain those adjustments sometimes in the footnotes in this exhibit and also in the narrative of my report. And I think maybe on the next slide as well. And then, so now the books and records, plus or minus the adjustments to arrive at net operating income. That's the third column in each of the years. And so here, there's some certain things prescribed in the ordinance. I'll talk about the adjustments. In 1984, for instance, you see an adjustment to utility income and utility expenses. Those are the same number because the ordinance says that gross income shall equal basically utility income or amounts charged to residents for utilities minus the amount that it costs the park to procure those utility services. So you see there's $2,705 left. Essentially, there was $2,705 more billed to residents than it cost the park. And that's the way that the ordinance has instructed us to prepare this analysis. And so that's why I made that adjustment. You can see it's a reduction of income, but it's also a reduction of expenses in the same amount. So it's no effect to the bottom line or no effect to net operating income. It's just a presentation, and that is what the ordinance calls out. Legal expenses were removed. I believe this ordinance says legal expenses are not filed as operating expenses. And so those were removed in 1984. Those were also removed in 2023. And then it's my belief that depreciation should be an allowable operating expense. This ordinance does not allow depreciation, but my experience and knowledge and independent analysis, I believe that it should be included. So that's why you see an adjustment there to depreciation down towards the bottom. For instance, in 1984, $6,919. I do also present the results without depreciation and amortization because I know that the ordinance specifically prescribes it. It's prepared that way, but I feel strongly that it should be included. So then let's move to 2023. Same adjustments for utilities. Obviously, the numbers are different because it's been 40 years, almost 39 years. So costs have gone up. There is an adjustment to repairs and maintenance. I explain what those adjustments are in my report. There was a couple of items that appeared to be not recurring type or not representative of a normal expense level for each year. So I removed those. That's and removing an expense is basically increases net operating income, and so that is say favorable to residents as opposed to favorable to the park. The addition of expenses would be favorable to park, not favorable to the residents. In this case, I am removing some expenses. I removed the legal expenses like I explained. I put in an amount for depreciation towards the bottom. I guess the last adjustment there that I didn't mention is mortgage interest or interest income. Those are not items that are they're not operating items. That's not operating income or expense, so that gets removed. And I think that's all the adjustments on this schedule.
And just real quick, while we're just talking about depreciation, I mean, in your Exhibit 1, you have 2 columns, one without, one with, and in this, actually with the way you did it, the 205 is actually.
Council Dilday, it's really hard to hear you. Could you speak up or speak into the microphone just a little bit more, please?
Sure. Yep. Is that better? Is better?
Thank you.
Okay. And in this case, the with depreciation is actually favors the residents, is that correct?
It's a lower rent increase than without depreciation, yes.
Okay, all right. Then you want to just explain what's.
Sure, so
Exhibit 1?
on this schedule, so this is the summary of the calculation, the MNOI calculation. So the exhibit we were just looking at, Exhibit 2, is the calculation of net operating income. That's the kind of the base, that's the top line here. You can see base year 1984, net operating income with and without depreciation. So that's our base year, that's what the park was making, that's what the net operating income was of the park before rent control was enacted. Then we look at the CPI index that's called out by the ordinance. We calculate the percentage increase from 1984 till 2023. That increase was 233.7%. So you multiply the base year net operating income by that percentage, and that gives you the CPI increase, or also called the inflation factor. So then you take the base year net operating income,
Oh,
you add to it. Can you hear me okay, Jason?
okay. Well, Brian's talking, so let me push on. I gotta listen. Hold on. You want me to put you on speaker?
Council Dilday,
Oh,
you're not
yeah,
muted.
Yeah, let me do that. Let's see if they can do it. I don't know if anybody there can do it. Brian's just going over his report.
Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so sorry, hold on. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, Brian. We talked, go ahead.
Okay, so once we calculate the inflation factor, you add that to the base year net operating income to come up with the inflation-adjusted net operating income, or now, I'll talk about the without depreciation column. You see it $1,017,263. That is basically the same amount the park was earning in 1984, but it expressed in today's dollars due to inflation. And so, under the MNOI methodology, that is what's considered a fair return. And if the park is making at least that, then it's earning a fair return. If it's making less than that, it's not earning a fair return. And you can see the actual net operating income in 2023 is $585,277. So there's a difference there, or a shortfall. It's earning less than that fair $1,017,000. It's earning less than that by $431,000 and change. And so in order to obtain that fair return, the park needs to raise rents, and in the amount of $431,000 and change per year. We divide that by the 165 spaces and by 12 months, and that's how we arrive at the $218.17 per space per month necessary for the park to earn a fair return. You'll see that this is kind of done twice in the first section. This is using the full CPI increase, 100% of the CPI increase from 1984 to 2023. Down below is taking 75% of that increase because that's what the ordinance prescribes. This is another case where I feel strongly that this is called partial indexing. When you maintenance of net operating income methodology specifies a percentage of the CPI less than 100, that's partial indexing. And I feel strongly that that is economically does not provide a park with a fair return, because essentially it's not even keeping up with inflation. So its purchasing power is less than it was prior to the rent control being enacted. But I did present it here so you can see what the results are.
So the second one, 75% indexing, is what the ordinance specifies. The 100% is what we're arguing is necessary to actually earn a fair return to maintain the purchasing power.
Yes, I believe 100% indexing is what's necessary to obtain a fair return.
Okay, you want to go through anything else? You want to go through?
Let's just scroll through. We've seen Exhibit 2. Let's go to Exhibit, I think there's a 2A maybe. And this is, these are the adjustments that I made to 1984 and 2023 in order to arrive at net operating income. You can see in my report a further explanation of why those adjustments were made. I believe that's on page 3 of my report. Let's go to, I think Exhibit 3 and 4 are probably not necessary to walk through, but these are the actual rent rolls. Exhibit 3 is the actual rent roll, meaning the amount of rent charged each month for each space in 2023. And then I think this park was fully occupied, if I'm not mistaken, so there was no vacancy rent to account for, which would have been Exhibit 4, but I think Exhibit 4 is blank because there was no vacancy in the park.
Sorry, I can't see that. How much time do I have left?
You have 6.5 minutes.
Okay.
He can take longer if he wants.
Okay, so moving on to Exhibit 5 is my calculation of property taxes. This is how I basically just supported the amount of property tax expense that was on the profit and loss statement by looking at the actual property tax bills for all the parcels that are part of this park. Moving on to, oh, sorry, do you want to ask anything?
No, I was just gonna say, so you went through historically, 2022 through 2023 to 24, right?
Yes, yeah, because the city's on a fiscal year that ends June 30th, so half of the property taxes of one fiscal year for the city pertain to half of the calendar year 2023 for the park, and then the other half, the half of the next city's fiscal year is also captured in the second half of the park's 2023 calendar year. It's a little confusing, but just making sure that the months line up. Exhibit 6, this is my calculation of depreciation. You'll note here, so this, these aren't individual assets, but they're categories of assets and their various acquisition dates. You'll note that the depreciation and the assets listed here do not include any capital assets that might have been reimbursed by the tenants through other capital improvement or capital improvement items that might have been passed through to residents in prior rent increases.
And again, and then in your report, it details the rationale for including depreciation.
It does. There's a lengthy explanation as to why depreciation should be allowed as an operating expense.
And again, just one more time, with depreciation is actually, including the depreciation is actually lowers the rent increase under the tenants would receive, correct?
That's correct.
Is there anything else I wanted to just go briefly through the consultant's letter and the supervisor?
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to cover in your report?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Is there anything you want to specifically want to cover in his? I have a couple questions, but I'll let you go first if you have anything.
On his letter, the consultant's letter?
Yeah, just his, yeah.
Well, I would say, I do see that the 1984 tax return was requested. I think that's probably next to impossible. I wasn't able to obtain it. It's very hard to obtain data that's that old. We were fortunate enough to have the 1984 profit and loss statement, but typically records that old are, just not maintained, particularly when a park turns over. And when I say turnover, I mean that has been acquired by different parties over the years. I guess that's the main thing. Basically, this letter says that it just needs more information.
And you did
provide it.
And you as part of your analysis did review the general ledger for.
I did, yeah, and you'll see in my report where I, part of my review, brought to light a couple of items, particularly in repairs and maintenance category that should have been removed, so I removed them. So yes, I reviewed it.
And then one of the things he noted on page 2 is inconsistent utility reporting for 2023. That's a function of what you discussed earlier with that you're basically only.
Yeah.
You want to explain that?
That's a good point. Yeah, so again, and I can maybe quote the section here. In Um, It's in 152.08B, where it talks about how the gross income should be calculated and that it only should include the excess of utility billings over the cost of those billings. And so that's why I presented it this way. Again, you can see a deduction to income and a deduction to expenses in the same amount, so it's a net zero effect on net operating income. This is a presentation adjustment, and it's prescribed by the ordinance, and that's the only reason it's there. But yes, the cost you can see for utilities is zero in the expense section for both 1984 and 2023. Because in both cases, both years, there were billings in excess of the costs, and so that's how the math worked out when, when I made the adjustments according to section 152.08B in the ordinance.
And then his other concern regarding the 100% indexing, which we've discussed, and that you provide alternative calculations on Exhibit 1.
Yes, I did provide alternative calculations. I wrote an extensive narrative as to why I believe that partial indexing should not be taken into account and should not be used in an MNOI analysis. So, readers can look to that. But I think that that's all I'll say on that. Users can read that report.
And the report's, 9-10 pages, so it explains everything. Anything else you want to cover in your report?
I'm just looking through here.
I still
I
didn't
don't believe so.
cover, so I don't know what
No.
Okay, I'm going to take this off the screen. Yeah, I don't have anything else. There's a representative of the owner is in the waiting room. If it's possible, anybody there can get a message to let him in. His name's Matt Davies.
Council Dilday, you just said there's another individual in the waiting room?
Yeah, he's been there for a while. I emailed everybody I knew an email. I didn't email Monica, but anyway, if somebody can let him in.
If you can just give me one moment, I was not given that name, so anyone that's not on the list was not let in. So give me just one moment and let me see if he's there. I do find him here. I'm going to bring him into your meeting now.
Thank you very much.
Matt, you have just been added to the meeting.
Thank you.
The 30 minutes is up as well.
And the 30 minutes is up. If we could start on our next process. Thank you.
Maybe take a 5-minute recess? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess and reconvene.
Getting the hang of this still.
Are you doing this just on the side or full time?
Well, right now full time. Because school's out, so we're in summer break. So I'm gonna test it out and see how that goes.
Yesterday.
Is it only 3 months?
Yeah.
Wow,
Months.
cute.
He's all my husband. I asked the doctor, I'm like, so when's the melanin coming in? And when I go to the brewery, all the bartenders, they're like, whose white baby is that? I'm like, apparently mine. Like, apparently, because, like, he's all my husband. Like, he's all my husband.
Yep,
Like,
everything.
was
He
in
should have
labor-
had him.
I was in labor for 4.5 days, and you're telling me, like,
4.5?
4.5 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough.
is your
My first.
first?
Yeah.
And you're not doing it again?
No, F that. No. I don't know how people do it more than once.
I had 3.
I'm traumatized. Seriously, I am traumatized.
My wife has 4.
4? Yeah.
I'm like, nope, not doing that again.
See that supposable brain block that goes on.
Oh no, I
Like 4 days, so you still have the.
Well, because like I had, so like my birth was pretty traumatic. My water broke, no one noticed because it went from the top.
Oh, okay.
So I got that infection that after your 72 hours of your water being broken, like, you get. Then I got another infection, and then I hemorrhaged. I lost 40% of my blood. It was a whole mess. Then I got post-preeclampsia. So I was in a hospital for like 20 days. And since I had the infection, my son had the infection, so he was in the NICU. So I'm like, no, thank you, no. Traumada. No,
I mean, that's valid reason for you not to want to go through that again.
I'm like, no. I'm like, no, thank you. Like, I told my husband, I'm like, nope. And he's like, no. He's like, absolutely not. Like, no. Like, I'm obsessed with my son, but no, thank you. Yeah, 20 days in the hospital was like, and I'm not kidding. Throughout my pregnancy, I didn't gain any weight. The last after I gave birth, within 24 hours, because of the preeclampsia, I gained 50 pounds in
50?
water weight. My legs, I couldn't even walk because estaban like
swollen.
I already have big legs, and they were like huge. Like I couldn't walk because I couldn't.
You were in pain.
I was in so much pain. I could hardly see out of my eyes because my face got so swollen that it was like going up.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It was closing your eyes, shutting them
no,
up.
yeah. I was like, no, no. I don't know how people do it after that. I don't know how people do it over. Giving birth is traumatic. Overall, it's traumatic to your body. Like
Yeah,
overall.
it goes, I guess, yeah, it's just that everyone's different though.
Yeah.
Everyone's body reacts different.
Yeah.
Some really go into shock. Like,
Yeah.
they don't know how to react, the body.
No, hell no. 3.5 days, I'm like, nope, give me the epidural. Deme todo. Like, give me all the drugs. Like, just give me all the drugs. No, thank you. Because my son was vacuumed out. I pushed for 4.5 hours. And after being in, 5 hours, after being in labor for 4.5 days. And
You were exhausted already.
I'm like, no, I can't do it anymore. But because I have something called hemolytic anemia, which is like when your red blood cells, your body kills your red blood cells before they mature. Yeah, I would have not made it out of the operating room. So pretty much a C-section was like the last resort. But I think my son came out and I looked at my husband and I was like, you're getting a vasectomy. That's the first thing that came out of my mouth. And the doctor starts cracking up and my husband's like, we're not doing this again. And I'm like, no, thank you. Con uno estoy bien.
He's adorable, yeah.
Oh, I love him. He figured out how to put his pacifier back in his mouth today. And then he did it and he looked at me, and goes, and I'm like, and he started to like, recognize the pets. He looks at them, y like corren enfrente de él, and he just starts cracking up. And it's funny because when we speak English to him, he just like stares at us. But when I speak Spanish to him, or my husband speaks French to him, nos contesta de regreso. But when you speak English,
because he hears more Spanish and French.
Yeah, he just like stares at you. But no, my husband and I, like, no one in my husband's family speaks French. My husband just knows it because he studied abroad. Pero él, it's so funny. I am obsessed with him. Like, I am obsessed with him.
Yeah, he's adorable.
But too. We went to a brewery over the weekend. A couple was fighting. We think they were breaking up, and I'm a chismosa. Oh my god! So I was like, oh damn, I'm gonna listen in. He just kept staring at them, and I'm like, dude, no te des, no mires. Like, don't look. Like, come on. And he's just like staring at them. I was like,
He understands everything that was happening there.
yeah, my husband's like, he's a chismoso just like you. I'm like,
So watch that light.
Correct. Yep. 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you for your patience, everyone. We'll go ahead and, louder. We'll go ahead and proceed with, thank you, everyone, for your patience. Thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead and allow Mr. Gonzalez to speak. He will have 30 minutes.
Okay, I would call Mr. Carl Lawson as an expert witness. Mr. Lawson, please describe your experience with mobile home rent stabilization.
For over 32 years, I administered mobile home rent stabilization programs, participated in dozens of hearings on rent increases, including financial analysis of net operating income applications, provided draft findings for hearing officers and rent review commissions, worked on commissions that drafted rent stabilization ordinances, and provided staff support for a variety of staff and legal counsel in the analysis of fair return applications.
Can you describe any training that contributed to your knowledge and expertise about mobile home rent regulations in evaluation of applications for rent increases?
There's an organization called the WMA, the Western Manufactured Housing Communities Association, which provides continual professional training. I attended numerous courses from them over the years. Also attended courses at Loyola Marymount University for financing and real estate, including management of rental properties. Have mediator and certification from Pepperdine University, and received training from a number of attorneys who are the leading professionals in the field, practitioners representing mobile home park management agencies, organizations, and homeowner organizations.
Over the course of the past 30 years working in this field, have you evaluated applications for fair return rent increases based on the maintenance of net operating income formula?
Turned on, and if you could speak directly into the test that. Thank you.
Yes, I have.
Based on your experience and expertise, what are the essential numbers needed to calculate the permissible rent increase utilizing the NOI formula?
There are 4 numbers that are needed.
And what are those 4 numbers?
The net operating income for the base year has to be calculated from 2 numbers in that base year: the base year income and the base year expenses. You need the same 2 numbers for the application year: the application year income and the application year expenses. Those are the starting points for any analysis.
Factual determinations of income and expenses must be made based on what?
Well, the evidence that's in the record, some sort of evidence substantiating what the income or expenses were. And then, as Mr. Ide testified, there are some adjustments to those income or expenses based upon what the city code states.
Have you reviewed the park's application and supporting documents that the park submitted with its application?
Yes.
Did you find any documents that indicate how the park calculated the rate increase it seeks?
Yes, Mr. Ide's report contains a spreadsheet, which is the key starting point. I believe it's at page 54 of the agenda packet. It is a spreadsheet which has two sets of columns. To the left-hand side, it has base year 1984 income and expenses listed. On the right-hand side, it has columns with application year 2023 income and expenses.
Do the four essential dollar figures that you referred to earlier appear on this spreadsheet?
They do.
And the $4 figures set forth on those subtotals for the income and expenses for 1984 and the income and expenses for 2023 together are the starting point for the city code required adjustments to be made, correct?
That is correct.
And once those adjustments are made, the result will be that you will then have the four critical dollar figures that must be plugged into the city code's formula to calculate the permissible rent increase. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let us look more closely at the figures on this particular spreadsheet. Beginning with the first line item, which is gross rental income for the year 2023, in the column that is far right, we see the dollar figure of $885,339 as the adjusted NOI figure for the park. In the record submitted by the park with its application, is there evidence to support this figure?
Yes, there is, and let me correct something I said earlier. I believe I mentioned page 54 of the agenda packet. I want to verify that. If I could say one
I
moment.
have it at page 56.
Page 56. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Yes, Mr. Ide indicated that he had looked at documentation of and referred in his letter to several documents. Now, specifically, you were asking specifically about the rental income?
Yes.
Yes. If we go on a little bit further in the agenda packet, starting at page 59, you will see a four-page spreadsheet which lists month by month, space by space, the rent charge to the homeowners for each of those spaces.
So do you agree that the NOI adjusted gross rental income for the application year 2023, as seen on that spreadsheet, is accurate?
I added up those figures, and that $850-some thousand figure is indeed accurate, provided that those, and I would have no reason to doubt that, provided that there was some substantiation that those were actually the rents charged to those individuals via rents, receipts, or payment ledgers or deposit ledgers.
How would it be possible to determine whether those space by space, month by month rent amounts for calendar year 2023 are indeed accurate?
Precisely by looking to a ledger that provided income or proof of deposits made by those homeowners, or copies of rent receipts. There's a number of ways to that could be validated.
Did the park's application include a spreadsheet or any other documentation similar to the four-page, month-by-month, space-by-expense rental income roll which the park provided for the year 2023?
There is.
I'm referring to the year 1984, the base year set forth in the park's application.
No, there's nothing for 1984 like that.
And is there any indication the park's application as to how it arrived at the gross rental income of $354,225 for the base year 1984?
The only indication is on the first page of Mr. Ide's letter, where he says he referred, one of the documents he looked at was the 1984 profit and loss statement.
And that's the sole document referred to?
Yes, it is.
Was that 1984 profit and loss statement included in the document packet that constitutes the park's rent increase application?
No.
Were there any records at all from the year 1984?
No.
Would a column of figures purporting to be a profit and loss statements from 1984, standing alone, constitute sufficient probative evidence upon which a factual finding regarding the park's 1984 income can be made?
No.
In the absence of a month-by-month, space-by-space document reflecting rents collected in 1984, what other evidence would you look for in order to ascertain whether the 1984 gross rental income figure listed in the park's application is accurate?
Well, I have seen cases where park owners did not have access to information from a specific year, but they had access to rent rolls or rent increase data from 1 or 2 years later, and they could extrapolate backwards to determine that. So, for example, if the park were able to find something from 1985 or 1986 or 1987 even, they could possibly make an estimation or an approximation. That's one possible source.
Are any such documents included in the park's application?
No.
Did you take any steps to try to obtain financial documents to ascertain the accuracy of the dollar figures that the park rent increase application claims are figures from 1984?
Yes, we prepared a series of Public Records Act requests, which were submitted to the city requesting specific documents for income and expenses for both 1984 and 2023. The city clerk provided partial response to some of those requests, and we learned yesterday that we have everything, except for the ledger from 2023 that Mr. Dilday indicated had been submitted earlier today.
In the documents you reviewed that have been produced to the city to date, was there anything at all helpful with respect to establishing the 1984 base year profit and losses?
No.
Have any documents, financial records, or any other evidence been presented by the city or the park that would enable anyone to ascertain whether the claimed 1984 rental income figure of $354,225 is accurate or even close to accurate?
No, there are no such documents that have been presented.
In your expert opinion, is there any evidence in the record that would enable the commission or anyone making a factual finding as to how much rental income the park had in 1984?
No.
Based on your experience with other rent increase applications, can you tell us whether there are any other methods that may have been utilized by the applicant to attempt to ascertain or estimate income from prior years for which no source documents were located or had been presented?
Yes, there are alternate methodologies which park owners can employ to either estimate or approximate income and expenses. Park owners will often find a comparable park for which there are documents and records available of comparable size and condition, and ask that those figures be imputed to the subject park of an application. There's a whole series of ways to do it. In addition, the Santa Paula City Code allows the park to choose an alternate base year if they do not have documentation, or if they think that an alternate base year can provide an alternate way to calculate the net operating income. In this case, the park chose to use 1984 despite the absence of any records, and despite there not even being the profit and loss statement itself introduced into the record.
Let's return to the claimed 1984 expenses set forth in Mr. Eads' analysis. With respect to the various categories of expenses the park lists under the year 1984, on the page 1 of 2 spreadsheet, has any documentation, financial records, or any other evidence been presented into the record which would enable someone to ascertain the accuracy of the claimed expenses for 1984?
No.
Turning again to your professional experience from similar rent increase application cases, What types of other secondary evidence sources have applicant parks introduced to support claim expense amounts?
There have been cases where parks can obtain verification from a third party as to what an expense was. For example, with property taxes, it's possible to obtain property tax records from the local, from the county as to what property tax was paid on the property in any year. Insurance premiums can often be documentation of what the insurance premium paid by the park was. For payroll records, wages from former employees, W-2 statements, tax returns. There's a number of different sources that parks look to try to piece together some sort of credible documentation as to what an expense really was.
Did you assist me in preparing the April 28, 2025 request for a production of documents that was forwarded to Mr. Dilday?
Yes.
What documents did you ask for?
May I refresh my memory by looking at that? There were a couple of document requests.
Sure. Thank you. I didn't know it could be moved. I was contorting my body. April 28th.
I'm looking at the agenda packet here. I find the one that I worked on was on page 171 of the agenda packet, which was a document request from May 16th.
That is correct.
Yes, I did assist in the preparation, the drafting of that document
What
request.
documents did you ask for?
Well, the request speaks for itself, but specifically source documents that would...
No, actually, that's the PRA. I'm asking you about the, my letter of April 28th. Here we go.
Let the record note that I've been handed a copy of the attachment to the letter of April 28th, 2025 from Mr. Gonzalez. It indicates that from the park owner, the request is for, number one, invoices for property insurance costs, declaration pages for the policies, documentation of the payment of the invoices. Number two, invoices, bills for LLC fees, licenses, permit fees, telephone, internet. Number three, invoices for utility expenses and a breakdown of utility income and expenses by types of utility. Number four, invoices for repair and maintenance costs with explanations if the invoices are not self-explanatory. Number five, property tax bills. Next item, documentation of wages and management fees. And finally, documentations demonstrating the timings of the payments of each of these types of expenses.
Were any documents produced by Mr. Dilday in response to my request?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, I would think that by April 28th, the date of the letter, that Mr. Dilday was aware that I represented the tenants. His statement that, well, they didn't have a tenant representative, so I didn't produce any documents with respect to the guidelines set forth in the procedures. I note that they did serve the application on a tenant representative, didn't they?
I don't have personal knowledge of that. I believe that's true.
Okay. And they used a name of I think it was Alba Gonzalez, to forward that application. Is that correct?
That is what I have been informed.
Okay. Now, the regulations promulgated by the commission are to assure transparency and fairness, correct?
That is the statement of counsel for the city, and I agree with that statement.
Okay. The Now, the city of Santa Paula, the ordinance, it sets forth a cap on the amount of rent increase that can be adjusted every year, correct?
On the cap on the amount that can be implemented of a rent increase, pardon me, 12%, I believe.
12%, okay. Yet they're seeking the applicant's seeking a 45% interest, correct?
Yes, and
45% increase, correct?
yes, and if anything over 12% were granted, it would have to be spaced out over a number of calendar years until you reach the dollar figure to reestablish net operating income.
Now, the applicant states in their application that the City of Santa Paula ordinance is not constitutional, that it's a taking. What's your understanding of that argument?
I'm familiar with takings theory. I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot opine as to whether that argument is valid or not. Essentially, the takings clause of the Constitution in Article 5 prohibits government from taking a property without providing just compensation. There is a whole series of case law that, beginning with a case called Penn Central versus New York City, which speaks to the issue of regulatory taking. When a government regulation impacts a property owner's income, to what extent is that permissible? To what extent does that constitute an impermissible taking of property?
Now, are you aware of any ordinance by a city, a county, that has been held to be unconstitutional with respect to a mobile home rental application?
I'm trying to recall a case. I know it has happened. It's been many years where cases have been found, at least at the trial court level, to be takings.
Okay. During the last 40 years, is there a string of California appellate cases that hold that ordinances as low as a 40%, only taking 40% of a CPI index is constitutional?
That is my understanding, yes.
I'm looking for the Thomason and Thomason report.
Get the last pages here.
There we go, we got it. The Thompson and Thompson report dated June 9, 2025. It states, the review of additional verifiable financial information is recommended to establish the just and reasonable return and maintain net operating income while ensuring that parks do not experience an excessive rent increase inconsistent with the rent stabilization ordinance. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Do you agree with the requirement or the suggestion by Mr. Thomason that this can be easily resolved by finding the 1984 income tax return and all schedules for the owner of the property in 1984?
I don't know if easily resolved, but that would certainly provide some illumination. That would be substantial.
Do you agree with the Thompson and Thompson report conclusion that states, without additional information, it is difficult to provide a full analysis or recommendation?
I would say that it is impossible to provide a full analysis and recommendation.
And why is that?
Because to calculate net operating incomes, you need both sides of the equation. You need income and expenses from 1984, and you need income and expenses from 2023. I understand that a proffer has been made or a ledger for 2023 has been introduced. even if that substantiated everything from 2023, the absence of anything from 1984 means that you can only have one side of the equation. It would be impossible to calculate whether the net operating income from 1984 has been maintained, because you cannot calculate the net operating income from 1994 unless you have some documentation substantiating what that income and expenses were in 1984. And there is simply nothing in the record.
Is the applicant's application premised on a house of cards?
I enjoyed that TV series very much, but I would not want to characterize it. I would say it is premised upon a 1984 set of figures which refers to a purported profit and loss statement which has not been presented and for which no substantiating documentation of any kind has been presented.
The applicant can always submit another application with a different base year with the appropriate documentation, correct?
That is true.
To summarize your testimony, based on your 3 decades of experience in evaluating net operating income documentation and rent increase applications, and your review and analysis of all of the documents that have been presented by the park and the city and introduced into evidence, what is your opinion as to whether it is possible to calculate the net operating income for the base year 1984?
Excuse me one moment. Pardon me one moment. Thank you. I'm sorry, repeat that question, please.
Okay. To summarize your testimony, based on your 3 decades of experience in evaluating net operating income documentation and rent increase applications, and your review and analysis of all of the documents that has been presented by the park and the city and introduced into evidence, what is your opinion as to whether it is possible to calculate the net operating income for the base year of 1984?
My professional opinion is that it is not possible to calculate the 1984 net operating income.
And again, why not?
Because the only indication by the park's application as set forth on page 1 of Mr. Ide's letter is that the sole document relied upon was a 1984 profit and loss statement. That statement has never been produced or presented, apparently not to Mr. Thompson either.
And again, to summarize.
I was not finished with my answer.
Oh, go right ahead.
And in the absence of that statement, of that profit and loss statement, and the absence of any rent roll such as the one which is presented for 2023, or any documentation of any income or expenses from 1984, it is simply not possible to subtract net expenses from 1984 from net expenses from net income of 1984, because you don't have either figure.
So you have testified that without evidence of the income and expenses from the base year, which they selected, base year 1984, which what the application is based on, there is no way to make a factual finding of what the net operating income was for 1984. So even if the commission does have sufficient evidence in the record to make a factual finding of the park's 2023 net operating income, is it your testimony that it would still not be possible to determine whether the park would be eligible for a rent increase or not?
Yes, that would be my testimony. Again, both sides of the equation, the base year of 1984 and the application year of 2023, are necessary. I go back to those 4 numbers that are required to do the calculation. 1984 base year income, 1984 base year expenses, 2023 application year income, 2023 application year expenses, and in fact, there's actually a 5th number which is needed, which is the CPI differential for the period from the base year of 1984 to the application year of 2023. So you have 4 of the 5 numbers that have to be substantiated by documentation presented with the application, provided by the park, verified by the independent consultant who reviewed that. And then to that, you have to apply, plug those numbers into the equation, which will include that CPI figure. And again, since those 2 figures from 1984 have 0 documentation, and at least some of the figures from 2023, according to Mr. Thompson, are also lacking supporting documentation, I do not see any way that this commission or anyone could make a finding of what the net operating income was in either year, but especially in 1984. And if you can't do that, then you can't make a factual finding as to what the whether there is a shortfall in net operating income in 2023.
Given that, would it be proper for the commission to deny this application, given to its failure to establish the 1984 income and expenses?
I think that that is probably the only logical conclusion, and that is supported in essence by the statement of Mr. Thompson in his report dated June 9th, 2025.
I have no further questions. Can I request a short break? At this time, 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. And now, Mr. Dilday, when ready, please
Oh,
begin your rebuttal.
Madam Commissioner.
Oh, sorry?
We had a request for a 5-minute recess.
Oh, okay. So there's a request for a 5-minute recess, so we'll be taking that now?
If the commission so pleases.
Okay, if the commission so pleases?
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
More than 10 years older than you.
What's your skincare secret here?
I had 3 kids.
No, gracias. Let's stay with one.
You're the youngest one? Probably. Yeah. Yeah, it's however you feel. The age you are. I don't act my age. I have a lot of friends that are younger than me.
Oh, okay.
And not purposely, it just happens. And
You know what's weird is I used to always be the youngest one in the room.
really?
All the time. And then all of a sudden you get to that point where you're going, I'm the oldest one. When did that happen?
Yes.
It's like
We have
weird.
a friend who he grew up Jehovah's Witness. He left his church. He chose that because it's not for me. So he's kind of living life differently for the first time. And he acts like a freshly turned 21-year-old. He's 43. We constantly be like, we have to be like, David, calmate, like calm down. He's like, what? It's just one more shot, guys. And we have to remind ourselves that he's living life the way he wants to for the first time. And we're always like, dude, like, he's like, what? So it's like, we kind of babysit him, and like, we're the youngest. His fiance. So that's another issue. She's 30, and it's a whole issue there. We also have to babysit her, but it's always like, dude, like, you don't need another shot. You don't need it. Trust Then he say, like, he starts telling me, I tried this whiskey. I think it's called Jimmy Beam, Jimmy Beam. And I'm like, you think that's good whiskey? And he's like, oh man, it was delicious. He's like,
the worst
he's like
one.
a little boy, just
Exploring everything and anything that he
holy
can.
world just opened up for him.
Yeah, I've never had a stitch of alcohol.
Really? Oh, good for you.
Yeah, when I turned 21, I went out and I bought a 6-pack of beer just to be able to say I bought a 6-pack of beer. And then I also bought a 6-pack of root beer. And so I get home and my dad goes and cracks one open with me and I take a sip of it and I'm like, this is disgusting. I went back to my root
What kind of beer
beer.
did you get?
I don't know. It was probably like Budweiser or
PBR.
something. Back then, who knows? But
I've had plenty of.
but I
I've overdone it.
don't like alcohol at all. I don't like the
Really?
taste, and so I just was like, well, if I don't like it,
Why?
why?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's an acquired thing. Well, why acquire it if you don't, So I'll just be everybody's designated driver.
Yeah.
So that's the only time I get invited. Hey, Jim, what are you doing? Oh,
Wanna be your
nothing.
DD?
Yeah. You want to go out tonight?
I hope not. Seems like they're reaching an agreement pretty soon, or they're just gonna.
Yeah, this guy is including money for the first time. And like, mind you, I went through that. I left my church at 25, right? For constructing. But with him, it's like, we have to be like 15. Like, jalándolo cada ratito. It's like, come on, like, stop it. Funniest thing ever. Because my husband's like, you're responsible adults here? I'm like, apparently. I'm like, 'cause it's not those two. The guy that's pissed.
I haven't paid attention to it. He's the attorney for the residents. He's the residents' attorney.
He's pretty badass. He's like pretty badass. Sir, you're, yeah, I
Let me have your card.
don't hope, I hope. China, majority of people who live in trailer homes or in a trailer park are older folks. Why would you want to displace them? Low income families. Like, why would you want to displace them?
So they can bring more people to their community.
Dude, I'm not kidding.
Okay, back in session. We have a Brad Thompson who can speak on Zoom to explain the letter on our agenda packet, page 180, letter Thompson and Thompson on dated June 9th. Would you like to explain that, Brad?
Chair, would it, before Mr. Thompson, would it be possible to ask questions of Mr. Gonzalez and Lawson? Or would that, do you want that later?
Yeah, we'll do that in just a little bit. We're going to
Okay,
have,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, Brad Thompson?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I did submit a letter to the city attorney on June 9th after having a initial review of the application and cover letter and the Mr. Ide report. And our duty here is to review financial information to see if it's able to establish a just and equitable return and maintain a net operating income for the subject property, while ensuring that there's not an excessive rent increase to the park residents. And mechanically, what we do is really 3 steps here. One is we calculate 75%, and that's an important number, 75% of the increase in the CPI as applied to the base year, which in this instance is 1984. We then compare that to the NOI in the current year or application year 2023. If the current NOI is less than the adjusted base year NOI, an increase may be warranted. But upon review of the application and the consultant report attached to the application, I found it lacking verifiable financial information, or backup, I'll call it. Those items could have been attached to the IDE report in the addenda, and those include the actual profit and loss statement that was referred to in the consultant report, as well as the general ledger that would show disbursements for various expense categories. And the expense categories allowable are contained within the rent stabilization ordinance, and it's very important to properly identify and allow expenses under the ordinance. And without additional backup or check of reasonableness of those numbers through the profit and loss statements or general ledger, it's very difficult to confirm that they're accurate. In addition, Mr. Lawson was correct that the 1984 revenue or income is simply contained in Mr. Ide's report with no rent rolls or tax returns to help support that income. And that's one of the important items that's needed to establish a market return here. But most importantly, that I found is that although Mr. Ide, in his report, on page 8 of 9 of the report, it says, adhering to the ordinance results in an increase of $128.22 per space per month. So that's Mr. Ide's conclusion based upon adherence to the ordinance. However, on the application and the cover sheet in several places, the request for the increase is $205.29 per month, which is, I believe, based upon a 100% of the CPI indexing. I know that the applicant stated that they don't agree with partial indexing, but that's what's included in the ordinance. And until the ordinance is modified by the city council, that's kind of the law of the land for now. So at a 75% indexing consistent with the ordinance is a lower number as requested in the application. But certainly, if we were to obtain general ledgers, perhaps tax returns, the 1984 rent roll, as well as the profit and loss statements for both the original base year and the application year, additional consideration may be given to establish a rent increase. But without that, I'm not comfortable really identifying that one is applicable at this point in time.
Can you also speak to the, in your letter, there are two additional concerns. One, you mentioned the 100% CPI indexing, but the second being the inconsistent utility reporting. And can you advise briefly about why that's such a concern?
Well, without an additional backup, it appeared to be a very significant concern. Why would you have a utility income but no expense? But I think that Mr. Ide had a good explanation for that in his presentation, that the charge for the utility expenses exceeds the reimbursement from the tenants. So I think that was adequately, at least explained by Mr. Ide. But the first bullet point is that the The ordinance requires a 75% of CPI as the increase that we apply to the base year in our calculation, but the application requests a rent increase that is not consistent with the ordinance.
Yeah, Mr. Thompson, do you have any comments on the assumptions that Mr. Ide used in producing his 1984 net operating income, or his, well, the income and expenses, 1984?
Does he identify those assumptions on what page of his report?
Well, I'm looking at his Exhibit 2.
What page is that?
That
What
is
page?
56, I believe.
56.
This is I believe it's prepared by Mr. Ide as an exhibit to his report, and I'm assuming that he reviewed profit and loss statements and other information identified in his report, but that backup is not provided in the addenda as an additional exhibit so that it could be verified. So I believe it needs additional research and investigation.
So you're saying that the figures there are not based on any documentation that anyone's seen?
Well, Mr. Ide represents that he reviewed the profit and loss statements and so forth, but they haven't been produced for either Mr. Lawson, the city, or myself to verify the credibility of exhibit number 2.
What about for the 2023 figures?
Well, I believe that assuming the rent roll is accurate,
Okay.
which is exhibit
All right,
number 3.
yeah, the rent roll has been provided, yes.
So the rent roll for 2023, assuming that is an accurate representation of the gross revenue, provides at least a better assurance of the NOI figure currently in 2023. But again, the expenses for 2023, the expenses for 1984, as well as the income for 1984, I believe warrants additional documentation.
One other question. At the conclusion of this exhibit, he has a figure of, he has numbers for net income without depreciation, et cetera. And for 2023, he's saying that the net operating income is 64.4% of revenue. Do you have any comment on that figure?
I'd have to look at that figure. I don't recall that.
I'm just curious as to whether that would be considered reasonable.
I'd have to take a look at that figure to see its context.
Mm-hmm. It's on that exhibit too. Okay. Mr. Lawson might have a comment. I don't know.
I can address that question if you wish.
Yes, please do.
The definite.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could we wait until we have the rebuttal from the applicant, and then we can come back and address everyone's questions? Is that appropriate? Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Brad, did you have any more information or comments?
No, those are my initial observations, and I'm available for any additional questions that might come up.
Okay, then we'll move on to, thank you. And we will move on to Mr. Dilday. When ready, please begin your rebuttal. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Brian, Mr. Reed, are you, okay. Do you want to just respond to Mr. Lawson or?
Yeah, I think a lot of the discussion was about verifying the information that basically is displayed in my report. I just want to let the commission know that the figures that are on my report are as labeled on Exhibit 2 in the column where it says books and records. That's where those numbers came from. For 1984, I had a very old typed report from Deloitte, one of the big four accounting firms, with the profit and loss statement in it. And I just took the numbers from it and I put it onto my spreadsheet here, my Exhibit 2. And then for 2023, I just took an Excel spreadsheet P&L that was generated by the park and took those numbers and put them onto my spreadsheet. And I did that so that we could compare the numbers year to year on an easy, a simple basis, rather than just, copying or including copies of documents that I got from the park. But these are the numbers from the profit and loss. If you were to look at the source documents, they're exactly the same. The income and the expenses are exactly the same. And I'll remind everybody that I am a CPA since 2001. I'm a CBA, I'm an MAFF. I've got professional responsibilities that I need to abide by, and uphold and abide by. These numbers are the numbers from those profit and loss statements, and that's why I labeled them as such, as books and records. That's where they're coming from. If the residents or attendance representative were to look at these profit and loss statements that they were requesting, there's going to be nothing different than what's on my report. With regard to rent roll, I think that was the other thing. We were lucky to get something from 1984. I've been involved with many parks and fair returns, and it's very difficult, like I said earlier today, very difficult to get old records, 40-year-old financial records. We were fortunate enough to have this P&L, but to have a tax return from back then, I mean, the IRS recommends 7 years of retention, so it's next to impossible to think that we would have a tax return from back then. Same thing for rent rolls. A lot of times, back in the early 80s, these parks were owned by families. They call them mom and pops. It's pretty likely that they didn't even have a rent roll, quite honestly. But again, the rent rolls that I obtained for 2023 were just put onto my spreadsheet so you could see it all in one place. Because the system that generates the rent rolls, it does 1 month at a time, so you have 12 pages of it, and I put it all here in one, concise format for you. But again, those are the numbers from the rent roll. So this is effectively a rent roll, that I put onto a spreadsheet. I've taken the numbers from another.
And I'm going to share my screen. This is the 1984, 1985 P&L. Can you see that?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And this is the 2023 P&L in an Excel format. Both of these documents were just emailed to the clerk of the commission.
Okay.
I'm just letting everybody know. And again, like the GL that was sent in earlier today, the ordinance states that these can be considered so long as they're explanatory and not substantive, which they are. They don't change anything. They don't offer any new arguments or evidence. It just explains what was on Mr. Eads' Exhibit 2. So those things were just sent to be submitted to, were just sent to the clerk. I believe his name is Caesar. So he has those. If the commission wants to look at them, we're not trying to hide the ball. Regarding the GL that was submitted earlier, it's over 1,200 pages. So anyway, I mean, it was just, it's not that we didn't want to submit it. It's just it's a lot to submit. So, and if anybody had asked for it, the city had requested anything, we would have provided it. They never asked for it. They marked the application complete. I mean, the ordinance is pretty clear. Hold on one second. I'm just going to read real fast from the ordinance. Under hearings and procedures, section 15209, it says, all applications pursuant to this section appeals of decisions of the writ administrator shall be filed on an application form provided by the writ administrator reflecting the various categories of information specified in this initiative that would justify a rent increase. The writ administrator shall have 30 days to determine the completeness of an application, and it shall notify the applicant in writing within that period of any deficiency in the application. Okay. No, we were never notified of any deficiency. The application included everything that it was required to under the ordinance, and any other additional documents would have been provided had they been asked for. How much time do I have left? I didn't start my timer. Can you hear me?
Approximately 4 minutes.
Okay. All right. Wait one second. And I'm a little, as Mr. Thompson didn't get into when he was retained, but I mean, it's strange that this letter was, I mean, this is back in February, when I assumed he would have been retained shortly thereafter, and I'm a little confused as to why this letter wasn't sent out to us, or the city didn't contact us earlier if there's something he needed. So just want to point that out. Again, Mr. Eads' report includes alternative calculations using the 75% under the ordinance, as well as the 100% that he feels is required for a fair return. The application also acknowledges the 12% limit, and that it may be necessary, it probably will be necessary to, especially given the 12% includes the annual, so in order to phase, it would have to be phased over some period of time. So just, again, the profit and loss for 1984 and 2023 is in the record in Mr. Eads, as he explained, is in his report, verbatim, under the book income and expense category, our book records, and then with his adjustments are in the middle column, and then what he actually used for the M&OI analysis is in the third column of each for each year. That's all I have.
Okay, does the commission have any questions for Mr. Gilday? Any questions from the commission?
Yes, thank you. So you're saying that you're aware of the city's limit in the ordinance of 12%, no more than, not to exceed 12%, no matter what method you use to calculate the net operating income, right? But you're still applying for close to 45%, but you want that over several years. Is that correct?
We're applying for what's a fair return, which is a constitutional standard, and the ordinance does have a 12% limit for increases, which includes the annual, which I don't know what it was this last time, but say 3%, so there would be maybe a 9% a year. Yeah, it would have to be phased in based on the ordinance. But we're still entitled to a fair return under the law.
But you're still entitled to, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
We're entitled to a fair return.
Uh-huh.
It's just the ordinance constrains its implementation.
Right.
This, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is in the application. I mean, I discussed this in my.
Thank you. I just needed clarification. So the park is now owned by the Harmony Group, is that correct?
The park is owned by, I believe, Harmony Communities One LLC and River's Edge Manufactured Housing.
Right, okay. I'm looking at a cover sheet for Harmony, and the company claims to be a leader in affordable communities.
But that's a different Harmony.
It's a
Are you
different
talking about, is
Harmony?
this something that was in the residence submittal?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a different Harmony, though.
How does that differ from
It's not the same.
your
The owner-
Harmony?
That is not the same Harmony as the owner of the park, as one of the owners of the park. That's Harmony Communities, Inc. It's a different entity.
Okay, so that's nothing to do with the ownership of this park?
Harmony Communities, the Harmony Communities LLC, one LLC, that's in the deed of trust that the residents attached, that is the owner, one of the owners of the property. All the other references to Harmony Communities that the residents included is a different entity. It's Harmony Communities, Inc. It's not the owner. It's a management company.
When you say different
You
community.
know, hello, this is Matthew Davies. Communities Incorporated.
Who are we
sorry?
speaking with? Who is this?
This is Matthew Davies, he's a representative of the owner.
100 different parks. So this is one of this ownership, the owners of this park hired us to manage this property. So we do not own this property. We manage it. We're a property management firm who just happens to take heat because we do right by our clients.
So you're saying that even though they're both named Harmony, that they're no relation to each other, or wasn't a closed business that opened up? No relation. You're saying there's no relation of these Harmonies
They're not related
whatsoever?
whatsoever. They're separate entities. We've actually, when we set up, this family was 1031ing from one property into another. That was an initial thing that we managed for them for probably the last 10 years. We've been a property manager now for 20 years. But not that any of this even matters. If Harmony did own it, it shouldn't matter. This is about a fair return. But we are managing this for that family. There are actually two families that own this. You'll notice on the deed of trust, there are two separate LLCs. Both those families have known each other for a long time. They share some different investments with each other. And one of the families sold one of their parks and moved it in there. I will say that when we used to help them set up their LLCs, we stopped with this nomenclature so that there'd be less confusion. This is probably one of 3 entities that's still around there with that name. And this name should be going away probably shortly, in the next year or 2.
Could I ask?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt. So can you tell me who you are again?
Sure. I'm one of the regional managers for Harmony Communities, Inc. I'm a property manager. This property is in my portfolio.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, Harmony Communities is the manager of this park, of the 400 park.
Correct. You know, like when you hire a property manager to manage your single-family rental, we specialize in managing mobile home parks in the state of California.
Okay, all right. And
I'll represent that I do own my own parks, but this is not one of them.
Okay, but the Harmony Communities parks that you manage, is this one of the 33?
We manage over 100 parks.
Over 100, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like in Santa Paula, you have your local real estate. We're a real estate company. You have a local real estate company that you go to hire to manage your single-family rental. We specialize in mobile home parks management.
Okay. So you're as a management company, you have the commendable credo or motive to it states, when quality affordable housing is disappearing, it's our mission to expand options for economical and beautiful housing in the states and communities in which we operate. That's highly commendable.
Sounds pretty snazzy. You got it.
Yeah, thank you.
I did have an additional question. I don't know if it's for Mr. Dilday or for your accountant, Brian? Okay, so I'm looking at your application for the city of Santa Paula, and it says here that the percentage increase compared to existing base rent would be 44.64%. My question is that annually, owners have the option to raise rents based on the CPI every January, and I want to find out, did you guys elect to increase the rent in this January?
I believe so.
Okay, so at the same time you're increasing their rent, you're also requesting a 44.64% increase. So actually, that number to me seems like it's wrong, because I mean, at the same time, you're applying for a 44.64% increase, but you're also double dipping and getting, I shouldn't say double dipping, but that's what it looks like to me, that you're also getting the rent increase from January of this year.
Well, that's kind of a little bit incorrect, because this application is based on the 2023 year. That you're talking about a January 2025. We're getting further and further behind. This park is. I think the equivalent would be, just so you folks to lay it out in different terms, the rate of inflation since 1984 has been about 3.5 times. So a $10,000 salary, somebody would be getting paid $35,000 today. If we, at 75%, we're at about $25,000. We're not even keeping up with inflation, and with things like insurance and utilities, those are going up faster than inflation. This park is slowly being driven out of business. It's been on a long downhill slide of not even being able to keep up. If this were a business, it wouldn't even be able to afford to continue to hire people and keep them, because it can't keep up with paying people even. Imagine if you, at your job, you said, I'm only getting a raise of 75% inflation a year. You say, I can't keep up with that. My expenses are going up at 100% a year. So we're just trying to catch up here. We're trying to catch up from years of getting hammered.
When you say years of getting hammered, I thought this was just purchased in October.
This park has been getting hammered for 40 years. This is a catch-up. Listen, if you don't stay up and keep pace with inflation, you do go out of business eventually.
Thank you.
I would have to understand that when you guys purchased the property, that you knew that it was significantly behind and still made the purchase. Would that be an accurate statement?
No, we knew that there was an ordinance that specified a mathematical equation that this entity being able to stay in business. Part of the two families' acquisition price was taking into account the, for lack of a better term, the contractual agreement that the city set up in terms of being able to attempt to stay in business. I mean, and let's be realistic here. We're talking about rents going up from about $550 to $750, when market rents in the entire surrounding area are pushing $1,200. This isn't like this is any form of price gouging. This has been, these rents are still immensely affordable.
I note the laughter.
Did you have any further questions?
I do not at this time, thank you.
Okay, how about?
Just one other question. In Mr. Ide's submission, he argues against the indexing 75% of CPI. and he states that the city's reasoning or argument assumes that the property will appreciate in value, but there's no guarantee. But he says there's no guarantee that that will happen. Have such properties lost value in Ventura County?
Yes. I mean, in terms of inflation, I mean, Brian, do you have that cool little graph you can put up on the screen? Santa Cruz County has a 50% rent increase. Some of their parks are in the process of closing right now. And Brian put a graph together that shows what happens over time when rents go up at 50% of inflation and expenses go up at just 100. And what happens is that expenses outpace your revenue after 40 years when they change the ordinance. So these parks are starting to go out of business. In terms of about 75%, it's probably closer to about 55 years, but we'll use common, reasonable things. You have your Social Security. Imagine if your Social Security didn't go up at 100%, it's only going up at 75, but your grocery bills are still going up at 100. How many years before you can't make ends meet?
But I'm just curious, we all know that housing has gone up substantially, rental and ownership housing, and property values have gone up substantially. Are you saying that a mobile home park property is not going up?
Mobile home parks are valued based on a multiple of their NOI, net operating income. If your NOI is going up slower than inflation, your property value is going up slower than inflation. And it's getting eaten into since your expenses are still going up at inflation. So you can't talk about all mobile home parks in the same basket because non-rent controlled mobile home parks have been a very good investment for many people. Rent-controlled parks are what we're dealing with tonight, and that's why people hire us.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Okay, so no further questions. We're going to move to public comment. Does the clerk have the cards and would like to?
Oh, I did not see that Commissioner Hassel had one other question.
Okay.
Yes, I believe Mr. Lawson was going to comment on the questions I had on the Exhibit 2, I believe.
There were a number of questions on Exhibit 2. I believe you asked about the word reasonable.
Yes, I'm just curious here. The Exhibit 2 ends with net income for 84 and 2023. And net, and it assesses that as a percentage of revenue, total revenue. And for 2023, that is 64.4% as a percentage of revenue. That is the net operating income.
That is correct. I see that on page 56 of the agenda packet, the
Yes.
bottom right.
Yes, do you have any comments on that?
The word reasonable that appears in the ordinance in the relevant part, and I will look at that right now in the city code, pardon me, section 152.08 has this phrase: a park owner may seek a rent increase in addition to those permitted by section 152.07 on the ground that it is required to permit a just and reasonable return and maintain net operating income. The word reasonable there is not further defined. However, in the application of these types of fair return MNOI rent increase applications over the years in jurisdictions throughout California, it is the very definition of what you were making in the, what the park owner was earning in the base year is assumed to be reasonable because that base year is defined as the year prior to government regulation of rents. Therefore, it is completely determined by the free market, and the assumption is that whatever the free market gave you was reasonable. I think you might be asking a different question as to whether a business that has a profit equal to 64.4% of its income, whether that is a reasonable profit or not. The dollar figure on page 56 that the park was earning in the year 2023, the books and records dollar figure of their profit is $770,000. With the ordinance required adjustments, that comes down to $572,000. Whether that is reasonable or not is really in the eye of the beholder. A person who operates a business could probably tell you whether, if they had $1 million of gross income in the year, whether $640,000 profit they would consider that reasonable or not.
But as a percentage of revenue.
As a percentage of revenue, yes, as a percentage of revenue. So that's really in the eye of the beholder. But for the purpose of the ordinance, net operating income, the word reasonable is a term of art that relates to whatever the income was in the base year.
May I ask, with your experience of mobile home parks statewide, how would this compare to other balance sheets that you've seen?
I have seen, I think, only one percentage figure that was higher than 64%. It is frequently in the range of 40 to 50, 55%. I can recall one that I believe was 71%.
Okay, so generally 40 to 50%.
Yes, but it's important to remember that we're looking at an adjusted net operating figure, and different jurisdictions have different categories that adjust income and expenses, and the other part of the equation is the appraised value of the property, which again depends on many figures, many factors, including most particularly location, and location.
Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. For the speakers, it will be 3 minutes. If they need translation, that will be 6 minutes.
Our first speaker, we have Sierra Dionda. Is Sierra still here this evening? Okay, let me move on to the next person that I have on my list, and we can come back and see if she comes in. We have Tiffany Orr.
I'm Tiffany Orr, and I am of the Park Resident Association. As you notice, I did not call ourselves, I did not call ourselves a tenant association. We are residents of the park. Our association represents 164 families who are homeowners. Our own manufactured home units, which have been attached to foundations, and our property owners are leasing the land to us, and are not the same as tenants who rent apartments. I'll address you tonight as requested that we conduct a fair hearing and that you make your decision based on the evidence that was presented to you before the meeting, not things that were presented to you at this meeting, meaning the documents. Back in January, the park filed the application for rent increase of over 40%. Since we have been under stress, the whole park is under stress about this. We worked diligently to find out from the city what evidence the park has presented to justify this rent increase. And late yesterday, we learned that the evidence is there but also the evidence does not exist as of yesterday, as you see in Exhibit J. The responsibility of this commission is to fairly enforce the Santa Paula City Code. That's why we worked diligently in 1982 for the rent control. The time has come to end the stalling of the park. The commission should evaluate the evidence that was submitted on time and issue a decision that will remove the cloud of uncertainty that hangs over all of us in the park. Please decide based on credible documents and do not let the park make a mockery of the city ordinance, the mockery of the city of Santa Paula or the commission who adopted the rules. And just remember, these owners bought this park in October. They had a diligent amount of time to look over the finances of this park. They knew what they were getting into. This is what they do. They come in and they basically raise the rents on all of their, it's documented in court documents that this is what they do. They come in to these low-income mobile home parks, and they literally come in to raise the rents on us park residents. It's unfair, and I hope the city commission, the commission here, basically looks at the city ordinance and finds it in our favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Orr.
Our next speaker is Amalia Ochoa. And if we could have an interpreter come out to, we have an interpreter with her. Thank you.
Buenas noches. Me llamo Amalia. Soy una orgullosa trabajadora agrícola. Soy una orgullosa residente de Santa Paula y soy una orgullosa miembro de Causa, un grupo que desarrolla miembros de la comunidad en líderes que pueden ayudar mejor a cumplir una de las promesas de la democracia, asegurando que la gente tenga la oportunidad de hacer un cambio positivo con nuestras comunidades locales. Hoy estoy aquí del lado de la justicia. Hoy estoy aquí para hablar en apoyo de los residentes del Parque de Casas Móviles. Hoy estoy aquí para alzar la voz y luchar contra este aumento injusto de los alquileres. Tuve el privilegio de trabajar con Dolores Huerta. Ella dijo una vez que cada momento es una oportunidad para la organización de la comunidad y que cada persona puede ser un líder potencial y que cada segundo de nuestra vida nos presenta la oportunidad de cambiar el mundo. Hoy estoy aquí entre trabajadores, líderes y personas con talento que quieren cambiar el mundo para convertirlo en un lugar más justo, equitativo y honesto. Hoy somos más fuertes que ayer y mañana seremos más fuertes que hoy. Eso es lo que el poder de la organización comunitaria puede hacer por nuestra comunidad. Pero debemos recordar que nunca debemos rendirnos ni dejar de luchar por la justicia. Que Dios los bendiga a todos ustedes. Dios bendiga América. Dios bendiga Santa Paula. Adelante.
To translate for Amalia. My name is Amalia. I am a proud farm worker. I am a proud Santa Paula resident, and I am a proud member of CAUSE, a group that develops community members into leaders that can better help fulfill one of democracy's promises, ensuring people have an opportunity to make positive change in our local communities. I am here today on the side of justice. I am here today to speak in support of the mobile home park residents. I am here today to stand up, speak out, and fight back against this unfair rent increase. I had the privilege of working with Dolores Huerta. She once said that every moment is an opportunity for community organizing, and that every person can be a potential leader, and every second of our life presents us with a chance to change the world. I stand here today among workers and leaders and talented people who want to change the world to a more just, fair, and honest place. We are stronger today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow we will be stronger than we are today. That is what the power of community organizing can do for our community. But we must remember to never give up and to never stop fighting for justice. God bless all of you here today. God bless America, and God bless Santa Paula. Onward.
Thank you, Amalia.
Our next public speaker is Mitch Lilly. I have Mitch Lilly. Okay, I will come back to that name. Earlier called this evening was Elaine Yarpain. If she is here now. Elaine? No. And we have Ryan Drury. Is Ryan Drury here? Okay. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, my name is Mitch Lilly. I'm an organizer with the Ventura Tenants Union. I'm here to say, and in support of a lot of this testimony today, we do see this all across our county. I organize tenants in Ventura, in Thousand Oaks, and this is a very, common and really disgraceful practice, I think, by landlords that and property owners that happens. They come in and they think that profit is more important than people's livelihoods, and so. I won't take up too much of your time, but I am here to say that I support further investigation into this, and I support even further rent restrictions within the city of Santa Paula. I don't know about you, I don't get a 45% raise every year. I barely get a 4% or 3% raise every year, and so I think a rent cap that's commensurate with that would be something that is more than appropriate for the city of Santa Paula and the city of Ventura and everywhere in our county. But yeah, I just want to say I stand with the residents, and I think we should really listen to them. Thank you.
I'm sorry. How many people do we have that are going to speak? I mean, it's supposed to go till 9.
Mr. Dilly, we have not finished our public comments yet.
Okay. I understand that, so I'm asking how many are there? Can you tell me the number?
I would have to sit here and count all the cards, so until we get through all of them.
This was scheduled till 9.
Mr. Dilday, there is no time limit on these meetings.
There is on the calendar event that was sent.
That was sent to you as your Zoom invitation, so you could appear remotely. So as long as you're appearing remotely, please use that link.
I also have here, I'll go ahead and move forward on public comments. I do believe we are almost done here. Earlier, who spoke was Eddie Ramirez, and I did not check that he was speaking on this item 4B or 4A. So if he's able to say 4B, is that what you would like, that your comments earlier? Okay, I just needed to know that. Thank you very much. Unless you wish to speak again on this one. You're good? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, hang on. I called earlier Sierra Deandra. Is she here yet? No. And I will call again Mitch Lilly. Oh, was that Mitch Lilly? Okay. So Ryan Jury?
Ready to start? Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm an organizer with the Ventura Tenants Union. I'm born and raised, lived my whole life in Ventura County, Ojai, Santa Paula, Ventura, and I care a great deal about the livelihood and the well-being of Ventura County residents. And we knock doors every single day, every week for the past 5 years in Ventura Tenants Union. We talk to tenants about what they're going through. They're dealing with everything from mold to cockroaches to broken windows to all kinds of things. But the thing that is most damaging to them and their livelihood, aside from uninhabitable housing conditions, is the cost of rent and the cost of goods going up. Like Mitch said, we don't get 45% increases in our wages, but we do get close to 14, 15, 20% increase in our cost of goods, and a 45% increase in rent is essentially an eviction notice or a death sentence, because we know that eviction equals death in this county, in any other county. It's not hyperbolic to say that, and so we're imploring you to not allow anything like this to go through, to provide further consideration. And we're also just saying that the livelihood of the people that make Santa Paula move, the farm workers, the hotel workers, the bus drivers, the teachers, those are your protected constituents, but the profits of super corporations that buy up land just to prospect it and only see tenants as numbers on a spreadsheet, those are not protected constituents. You have no responsibility to protect the profits of super corporations, but you do have a responsibility to protect the livelihood of the citizens of Santa Paula and of Ventura County. And so we ask that you consider tonight's agenda and any decision going forward with that consideration in mind. And when it comes to the profits of super corporations like the one that we're dealing with tonight, that you let them find their exploitative measures elsewhere, not Santa Paula, really not anywhere, but we're asking you to set an example for when they go and carry out these exploitative practices elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one last card that's been turned in, and I'll remind anyone that if you have not turned your card in, you would need to bring that to me right away because they'll be closing the public comment shortly. So I'm looking for Zulith Lucero. I hope I pronounced your name right. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Well, good night already, but just wanted to make a comment in respect of your time. I had a long speech, but the Ventura County housing crisis is at a tipping point. Essential workers like veterans, teachers, and farm workers and first responders are being priced out of the communities they serve. Families are struggling to find homes that are safe, affordable, and stable. Today, I ask you to reconsider the proposed 45% rent increase on these homes. Such a step rise will put many families at a serious risk of losing their housing. Where will these families go? I have had the opportunity to speak with several of the residents of the mobile home park, and many share how stressful and frightening it is to even think about being displaced, potentially forced to leave Santa Paula, their jobs, their schools, and their community. We are at risk of losing the very people who hold our neighborhoods together, hardworking families, seniors, and longtime residents who contribute every day to the fabric of our city. Santa Paula is already experiencing a housing crisis. A 45% rent increase will only make it worse, leading to displacement and long-term harm to our community. This is not the right approach. So please consider tonight and make your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, there are no more public comments.
Does the commission have any further questions or comments? No? Okay.
Your time is completed, Mr. Dilday. If the commission has questions for you, then they will ask you.
I just want to make a quick recommendation. it's not, it has nothing to do with substantive stuff. I would suggest that the hearing be continued so the city's expert can review the documents that were not previously requested by the
All
city.
right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yildiz. Thank you.
Okay, so now that the public comment has concluded, the commission has no more questions. Ms. Mates, how do we proceed from here?
It is now your opportunity to deliberate if you have no further questions amongst yourselves and come to the decision. Sorry, I will repeat myself. Now that the other portions of the hearing have been concluded and you have no further questions for any of the parties, experts, or public commenters, then you will deliberate and review and openly to make your decision on which option you're going to choose. There are 3 options that you have before you. I'll refer you to page page 13 of the agenda packet. Sorry. You will see that under subsection F, you'll find 3 bullet point options, and this is where you can decide what you would like to do next and make a vote to come forth. Now, option 1 is continue the hearing. A continued hearing occurs if the members feel that further deliberation or receipt of additional evidence is necessary. However, during the time period between meetings, no conversation may occur between members of the commission and any individual or party, whether it is another commission member, applicant, opposition, or member of the public. Option 2, vote on the item tonight. A vote on the item shall conclude the matter being heard before the commission. First, the commission should close the hearing. Once closed, no more deliberation or receipt of further evidence. Second, the commission would vote on a motion that either A, adjust the rent according to the application and relevant law, or deny the application. And third, the option would be to close the hearing and continue the matter to a later date for a decision. Option 3, after closing the hearing ends all formal receipt of evidence and deliberation. So just to be really clear there, that the first option would be continue where it's still open for more gathering and consideration. 2, you would vote tonight before us and make your decision, and it would be done based on the decision that you voted on. 3, you are no longer accepting anything else, but you want more time. And then you would come back and vote for that. And it explains it in the staff report here in more detail, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. Can you help guide them on deliberation?
Am I allowed to make a motion to vote on the item?
So you have, excuse me, you have the 3 options in front of you at this point.
Correct.
If you would like to make a motion, you may do so. And then someone will second that.
Correct.
And then you'll have discussion about that motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to vote on the item.
I second.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, well, the motion would be to make suggestion to council of which of the 3 options you would like to choose that occurs on page.
So I'd like to make the suggestion to vote on the item.
Very good.
On item 2. The second option.
Correct.
Vote on the item.
Now you may discuss and deliberate.
Okay. I have no further questions or discussion.
Well, Mr. Thompson makes a good point, and also Mr. Gonzalez and Lawson, that additional full information for the base year is highly desirable and probably necessary. On the other hand, Mr. Ide has, I believe he has stated that his calculations for the base year are based on all the financial documentation that he was able to get or find. I believe so. So I think on that basis, it's reasonable to make a decision on this tonight.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay, so shall we put it to a vote then?
I think we
Any
need
more
a motion.
questions or
Do we need a
discussion?
motion?
I don't think so.
You have already made the motion.
To vote.
So can we go ahead and vote now? I think
Are
we've
you?
deliberated enough in between us?
Yes, so
Yes,
now,
but-
for the record, the public hearing has been closed.
Yeah, so I need to close it?
Yes.
Okay.
And now you would discuss what your decision will be on this application. And keep in mind, you should also consider the items that were submitted at this meeting by the park owner, and council should explain in their deliberation if you are opting to not consider that. Consider the submissions. So the ledger that was submitted, the 1,200-page ledger, and the, was it the 2000, what was it,
1984 and
1984,
2023, yeah.
2024
Ms. Castillo,
document.
I need to be heard on that point. First of all, there never was a motion to accept those documents, but I think that Mr. Dilday is being disingenuous by characterizing those documents as barely explanatory.
Yeah, let me stop you there. So I would like,
Yeah, we're beyond comments. We're beyond comments. The
we're
the
done.
meeting.
There are no more comments from either side.
Yeah.
So we are having council discuss.
We've
what
agreed
its decision
on
will
to
be.
vote on the item, and we have closed the hearing aspect of tonight's meeting. So we are moving on to casting a vote, correct?
If the motion is to deny the application or approve the application, then you would move to take one of those steps.
If you have no longer, or no further deliberation, considerations that you would like to have on the record, right? So if there's anything else that you have questions about, or would like to discuss amongst yourselves, or review anything, this would be the opportunity for you to articulate that.
And do we need to discuss openly on this? Yeah, okay. So I think we're okay.
So does your motion, clarification, does your motion, I haven't heard whether it's to approve or deny.
Correct. No, I was just making a motion to choose option 2 to vote, to
Okay.
close the hearing, to not take on any more evidence than what was provided already. And then based off of that information that's been provided, cast our votes on deny or approval of the application. That is the motion I am looking to make.
Okay. Do I have an emotion? Do I have a motion to approve or deny?
Can I make my vote now?
Yes,
Cast
you
my
may.
vote? I would like to make my vote to deny the application for the rent increase.
And then a second.
I'd second that.
I agree. I agree.
Can we?
Now you may discuss and deliberate before you
Yes.
vote.
Well, it appears to me that the city's ordinance, as somebody had stated earlier, that's the law at this time. And it's clear to me that the application is not in compliance with the city ordinance. It's very plain. So I think that's an important element in this discussion.
I agree, and there's plenty of time to submit information and resubmit information. But at this point, I believe that there's a lot more information needed, and as you had mentioned before, so I cast my vote to deny. So I think we are all three in agreement.
Correct. And you have other grounds for making that conclusion. Is there something else that you would like to support your conclusion with?
I'm basing my conclusion on the fact that during the submittal and application phase, before it was closed, the documentation that was provided does not give a proper view to make a reasonable assumption on that increase. And because we're not accepting additional information based on the application phase, since there is not enough information to determine that this is reasonable, I would like to make the denial at this time based on the application as is.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that the owners bought this park quite recently, and it's clear that they've got the sense to make good business decision, not to buy a property that doesn't have value. So I've got to assume that it is a good business proposition, within the terms of the city of Santa Paula and its ordinances.
If there's no further deliberation, we can go ahead and take a vote by roll call, voice vote.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. I'll go ahead and take a voice roll call. Commissioner Hassel,
Aye.
Commissioner Butler,
Aye.
and Chair Harrison.
Aye.
We have a unanimous vote to deny the application. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.